The Kia EV6 is the most expensive Kia to roll into showrooms ever. It's also the fastest Kia ever. But is this silent scorcher going to get everyone frothing and not just the cashed up EV fans? We're going to test it on Aussie roads and here at the racetrack to answer that question. Costing more than $100,000 once on-road costs are tabulated, the Kia GT represents a new epoch for the brand. Sure, it's super expensive for what was once a budget brand, but it has the potential to change customer perceptions, just as the twin-turbo V6 Kia Stinger did back in 2017. And while it's not quite as fast as a Porsche Taycan or an Audi e-tron GT, the EV6 GT is way more affordable and still brutally rapid, accelerating from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 3.5 seconds. Power is generated by a pair of permanent magnet synchronous motors that, well, they're not really located under here at all. This is just some storage, and actually not that much storage at that. Instead, these little motors are located on the axles, and they're not huge, but importantly, they're super powerful. The one on the rear is new as well. It's different to the regular GT line model. It's oil cooled, it spins up to 21,000 RPM, much, much higher. And combined, these two motors pump out 430 kilowatts. And torque levels, well, they're more than a prime mover. This thing is powerful. The battery pack is a 77.4 kilowatt hour lithium ion pack mounted low in the body to ensure an optimum center of gravity. And while it's not the biggest battery pack you've ever heard of in an EV, its range of about 420 kilometers is not too bad, especially considering how much power this pumps out. Speaking of which, that power is regulated through a single speed reduction gear set, and top speed, an eye-watering 260 kilometers an hour. The cabin is distinctive enough to make you realize this is no ordinary runabout. And it's got a really ultra-modern look and feel, like this floating console here, the dynamic steering wheel, but it's also not too complex, and there's a number of little touches that are familiar from other Kias, such as the HVAC controls to adjust the temperature and the audio here, and overall, I really like it. There's only a couple of differences with the vanilla EV6 models, chief among them these hardcore GT bucket seats. They look great, they are comfortable and supportive and get neon green piping, but they miss out on the air-conditioned cushions of the GT line, and they're also manually adjustable. But hey, they do save weight. Fit and finish throughout the cabin is pretty good, with high-quality plastics and plenty of soft leather and suede. The radical steering wheel is pretty cool too. The back seat is a bit of a paradox. It's really quite roomy in a lot of ways. Look at all that leg room, that headroom, not bad for a 6-foot bloke, but feels kind of pokey as well. I can't get my feet right under there and my knees are a little bit raised, but look, I'm being a bit picky. Overall amenity is very good. The outboard seats are heated. You've got USB-C ports, you've got air vents, this pumping Meridian sound system, fold-out armrest with cup holders, and down here is a 3.6 kilowatt household power point. You can plug anything into that. You can do a laptop, even a microwave, and eat stuff. The power-operated tailgate reveals a deep boot with pretty good flexibility, but have a look how high that boot floor is. The reason for that? Well, there's a battery under there and the rear electric motor. And because of that, there's no space over spare tyre. You just have to use the puncture repair kit, but look, this is a sports car after all, and we are at the racetrack, so cue the driving music. It's time to dance. After a couple of laps, it's clear that Kia has developed a very entertaining sports car. Yes, this is an EV, and look, it lacks that oral engagement you get from, say, a V8 or a Turbo 4 blaring away at full noise, but turning into corners is still a lot of fun, and punching out of them even more so. But the powertrain is just phenomenal, delivering ungodly acceleration instantly. It might not look it in these videos, but it feels so fast. Mash the accelerator pedal and it blasts out of corners with a level of intensity that few combustion engine cars can match. Fast doesn't really describe how forcefully this thing accelerates at full throttle at any speed. It is demonic. The EV6 GT's development was overseen by a German bloke by the name of Albert Biermann, the same guy behind the previous generation BMW M3, and he's managed to give this car just the right amount of rear-end shimmy at full throttle. Indeed, the handling dynamics of this all-wheel drive weapon are fantastic. That front end pivoting into corners with alacrity, and a big part of that is because of that rear end bias. It sort of just pushes it out a little bit more, tucks the front end in, and even when the front end gets a little flustered, that front motor kicks in to really help things out. It's a very impressive machine. You can even put it in drift mode, which only activates the rear motor, allowing you to slide around. But when you're chasing lap times, the electronic limited slip diff at the rear helps keep it on the straight and narrow, as do its sticky Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres on big 21-inch rims. But on a tight and twisty track like Haunted Hills, it can be hard work at times because nothing can mask the car's hefty 2.2-tonne curb weight, especially in tighter corners, not even the unique Australian chassis calibrations. It's an incredibly resolved vehicle on the racetrack, especially for an EV that doesn't have a Porsche badge. But there is one drawback. After thrashing the bejesus out of it on the racetrack, you may not have enough charge to drive home. Don't expect to get anywhere near the claimed 424 kilometres after white-knuckle driving like this. That said, the Aussie-tuned suspension and the fact that this has adaptive dampers with 3 different modes make this ballistic Kia extraordinarily flexible. So while you can be in GT mode and it's super stiff and fairly unforgiving, you can pop it into eco mode and it's much more compliant and much more relaxed on some of these bumpy country roads. Indeed, ride comfort is remarkably good on country roads. It's a docile cruiser, and together with all the autonomous driving aids you can think of, the experience is quite luxurious. It's also well suited to enthusiastic driving on challenging roads, and while it lacks the satisfying bark of a combustion engine performance car, it's still one of the most involving high-performance EVs we've ever tested. The EV6 GT doesn't look particularly flashy or aggressive, and the changes inside and out barely make it distinguishable from lesser models. But make no mistake, the EV6 GT is a monster, and one that can adapt to changing scenarios with effortless ease. If this EV doesn't get rusted on sports car fans frothing, nothing will. The Kia EV6 was our car of the year in 2022, and this ballistic flagship model is the icing on the cake. Yes, it's the most expensive Kia ever, but it's also the best Kia ever. And in my view, this is the best mainstream EV available today.